Today we will be making a 2-point perspective treehouse. For this project, I am using a pencil, a Sharpie, a ruler, and I just have regular paper. It's a tiny bit thicker than normal. I'm going to start off by choosing my horizon line, and I'm going to go a little lower so it looks like you're really looking up into the tree, but you can do it in the middle of your paper or even high up if you want. Next, I'm going to put 2 points that are at the very edges of the horizon line. These are going to be our 2 vanishing points. I mark them with X's, but you can put them as dots as well. Now I'm going to make the vertical of the corner part of my treehouse. And just to keep things simple, I'm going to go ahead and connect that top part of that edge to my vanishing point and the bottom part as well. And I'm going to do it on both sides of my vertical line. So each vanishing point is going to connect to that corner of what will be my treehouse. I'm going to do it on the bottom of the vertical line and the top of the vertical line, to my left vanishing point and my right vanishing point. And ideally, you will probably want to make these lines kind of light because we will want to erase some of them, but I'm trying to push down so you can see my lines. All right, now I'm deciding where I want my treehouse to end. So I'm doing that by making 2 more vertical lines, and then where the bottom of those meet my vanishing point, I'm going to connect them to my vanishing points as well, so that I have like a floating rectangular prism or cube. Okay, next I want to kind of decide about where the tree is going to come in. So I'm starting with a curved line at the bottom part of my shape that I just made, and I'm going to draw in the tree trunk so we can get an idea of what this will look like in the tree. And then we also want to consider some tree branches as well, but before I do that, I want to maybe add a couple more details to my house. So I'm going to add a couple more vertical lines to maybe make an opening for a doorway. And remember, anything horizontal needs to connect to a vanishing point. So the top has to connect to the vanishing point on the left. And maybe I want to make an opening on the right side here. So I'm going to start with a vertical line and then connect it to my vanishing point on the right, since it's on the right side of the house. And I'm going to finish those off with a vertical line as well. This is just a giant opening on the side of my treehouse. It could be a big window. You could divide it into smaller windows if you wanted. I just wanted a kind of a nice view going on. I also want to get really fancy with the ladder going up. So to make the ladder going up the treehouse, I'm going to start with a dashed line that goes down to the ground from the door. Then I'm going to take this vanishing point and connect it to each of those vertical lines on the top and the bottom, just like we did for the treehouse. And I'm only going to go about the width of the door. So I'm doing the top and bottom of each of these dashed lines. I'm making sure to use my ruler so my lines are nice and straight. And I'm going all the way down my dashed line. You can see as I move, that the lines get less diagonal. Now they're more horizontal because they're getting more even with the vanishing or with the horizon line. And then as they go below the horizon line, they start becoming diagonal the other way. So this may not look right at first, but trust the process. This will make it look like it is in correct perspective. Then I want to go ahead and add a vertical line to the side of all of those so that I'm closing in the shape. So basically I've just drawn some shapes in perspective using my vanishing point to the left. Now that's just the front. If my boards were completely flat and didn't have any depth to them, you could leave it at that. But I want to add a little bit of depth to my boards as well. So I'm going to go ahead and draw in the other side of them, except they'll just be real little lines like that to give my boards a little bit of depth. And those match up with my other vanishing point on the right. So I'm basically making some floating rectangular prisms that go all the way down to connect my treehouse to my ground. And this is very important to kind of take the time to do this because if done well, it should look pretty cool. You can notice my boards are not even the same width. So if you really wanted to get fancy, you could measure out the exact width of all of your boards too, so that you don't have different sizes. But I was just, using the boards that were in the scrapyard. So there's the other side of the boards. And then if you really want to get fancy, you can also add the bottom edge too by connecting the sides that you just added to the other vanishing point. So it's definitely, it takes a little bit of time to get these in here just right. And you can see as you go down that you actually have to start doing the top edge of these boards instead of the bottom edge because they go under the horizon line. Now remember, because this is a video, feel free to pause or go back and repeat a step because I know this could be kind of tricky. All right, I'm going to use my other horizon line, my other vanishing point to finish the lines here to make these basically look kind of like dominoes. They're about domino shape boards. Okay, and you can see they're all different sizes, but they are in perspective. All right, now this is a very basic drawing of a treehouse. I did not get too fancy with other details like a roof, or you could do a little ledge coming off. You could do additional platforms in your tree. I just wanted to give you kind of the main idea of shapes. Now I want to add a couple more organic shapes in the form of branches that are kind of coming out over the top part of my treehouse. So I am kind of throwing those in. If you want to, you can make them coming like out of the windows. But I think I'm just gonna have mine coming out from above the treehouse. Now I decided that I wanted a little bit more excitement instead of just one box. So I'm going to add a kind of a second story to my treehouse. And to do that, I'm starting off with the same vertical line and then two lines that go towards the vanishing points. And now it looks like I have a second floor to my treehouse. And maybe this one I will go ahead and have a tree branch that's coming out of the top part of the house. So you can kind of play around with different elements there. You could also do this with platforms that are kind of hanging off to the side of the tree if you wanted that. There's just a lot of different ideas out there that can really come together. Okay, now that I have my main lines in, I'm going to go ahead and trace them with a Sharpie. And this is the point where you don't need to trace all your guidelines, just your main lines. So there will be some extra pencil lines that I will have to erase. Or if you're using dark enough paint or markers, you could probably just color over them. I'm going and drawing my trunk in, maybe giving that some more detail. So not all of the details were put in with pencil ahead of time. I decided to go ahead and just freehand them when I got to my Sharpie. I'm tracing all of these. If you wanted to be really particular, you could be doing all of your Sharpie tracing with a ruler as well to make sure that your lines are nice and straight. I'm going to add some kind of rope here on the side to connect all of these so they don't look like they're just floating. And then add my little doorway here and my window. Throw in a couple curtains even. At the bottom of my house. Add some details to the top part of my house here. And basically fill in all of these elements. I'm going to throw in a couple extra branches just along the top here that are maybe a little bit thinner to show that the tree is getting smaller as it gets up higher. And then I just like to put a wavy line at the top parts of these branches to show that they are getting covered up by leaves. Decide kind of where the bottom part of my tree is and add some wavy tree lines to kind of indicate that it's going up off of the page. You can add other elements like tree holes or even animals if you want, little squirrel climbing up the trees. Now I'm taking my larger eraser and trying to erase away some of those pencil guidelines that I no longer need in my picture. I do want to kind of indicate where the horizon is, so I'm going to draw a ground. I'm going to make mine grassy, but you could make yours, more rocky, or you can make your treehouse kind of on a cliff next to the water, whatever you want to do, but maybe consider some type of background. And then think about some other things that you could add in your treehouse, maybe a bucket that they can connect to a pulley system to pull things up and down into the house. I like to decorate mine with little flags of color that are hanging up just to add some fun decor. You can add other little elements like things inside of your tree house, door frame, just any other little elements or details that you would like to add. Sometimes I like to indicate kind of what the tree house is made of. Maybe this has kind of a block wall look. So I'm just putting a couple just little lines to show that. I'm going to throw some distant hills or mountains. Add a couple elements in the foreground like some flowers. And again, this is where you can get creative and make it your own. I was just trying to think of different things that I thought would make the painting or the picture more interesting. So little ideas of grass, animals, bugs, birds, any type of thing like that can add to the design. I also wanted to put a person in my treehouse, so I'm just drawing a girl who's kind of peeking out of the window. Looking down at whoever's below. And now I'm ready to color. So I am using something called Neocolors to color my treehouse. They're kind of like crayons, except when you add water, they can work like watercolors. So I thought this would be a fun thing to use, but you can color your treehouse however you would like. Feel free to use crayons or colored pencils or markers, whatever you can do to get the job done. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed designing your own treehouse. For more fun video or drawing ideas, please check out my channel, Elke Art. Also, feel free to follow me on Instagram at Lori Elke. Have a great day.